an alien dinosaur!
So is this a kidnapping or her first Transformer experience?
Here on Earth. Two worlds colliding. Only one survived.
I want to stay, and I want to fight them.
What was that?
That was a mistake.
Think you know everything about Transformers: The Last Night? Well, get ready, because today on Hidden Real Facts, we're diving deep into explosive action, hidden details, and surprising truths that even die-hard fans might have missed. Let's roll out. Transformers: The Last Night is a 2017 American science fiction action movie based on Hasbro's popular Transformers toy line. It is the sequel to Transformers: Age of Extinction, 2014, and the fifth movie in the Transformers series. The film was directed by Michael Bay and written by Art Markham, Matt Holloway, and Ken Nolan. The cast includes Mark Wahlberg, who returns from Age of Extinction, along with Josh Duhamel, John Turturro, and Glenn Morshower, who come back after appearing in the first three movies. Stanley Tucci also returns but plays a new character this time. New faces in the cast include Laura Haddock and Anthony Hopkins. The story follows Cade Yeager, an inventor, who receives a talisman from a dying Transformer knight. Soon after, he is recruited by an unusual British professor to help save the world from the dangerous threat of Unicron, a massive cosmic force. The film had its premiere on June 18, 2017, at the Odeon Lux Leicester Square Inches, London, and was released in the United States on June 21, 2017, by Paramount Pictures. Even though the movie earned $605.4 million worldwide, its very high production budget of around $260 million, along with marketing and distribution costs, meant it actually caused Paramount to lose around $100 million. The movie also received mostly negative reviews from critics, who considered it one of the weaker films in the series. In 484 AD, Merlin discovers the Knights of Aegon, a group of Transformers secretly living on Earth. He asks for their help to assist King Arthur and his knights in battle. The Transformers give Merlin a powerful staff and join the fight, helping Arthur defeat the Saxons. However, they warn Merlin to keep the staff hidden. In the present day, after the events in Hong Kong, Optimus Prime arrives on the destroyed planet of Cybertron. There, he meets Quintessa, the Cybertronian goddess, who brainwashes him into becoming Nemesis Prime. She sends him back to Earth to find Merlin's staff, which can restore Cybertron, but only by draining Earth's energy core. Meanwhile on Earth, a new military group called the Transformers Reaction Force, TRF, is hunting down Transformers. Some members, like Colonel William Lennox and General Morshower, who were part of Nest before, don't fully agree with these actions. Cade Yeager, still an ally of the Autobots, is hiding Transformer refugees in his junkyard. In Chicago, Cade and Bumblebee meet Isabella, a young scavenger, and her small Transformer friend, Squeaks. They soon encounter a dying Transformer who gives Cade a mysterious talisman. The TRF tries to capture them, but they are stopped by Bumblebee, Lennox, and Hound, who let Cade and the others escape. At the same time, Megatron, who has abandoned his Galvatron form, learns about the talisman along with his remaining Decepticons and even the US government. They all realize its importance and decide to go after it, tracking Bumblebee to Cade's junkyard. A battle breaks out as the Autobots and the Dinobots fight off both the Decepticons and the TRF. During this chaos, Cade, his assistant Jimmy, Isabella, and Squeaks are chased by TRF drones. They are then approached by Cagman, a human-sized Transformer, who invites Cade to the United Kingdom to meet his master, Sir Edmund Burton, a man with deep knowledge of the Transformers. Burton also sends the Autobot Hot Rod to find Vivian Wembley, a professor at the University of Oxford. Burton reveals to Cade, Vivian, and Bumblebee that Transformers have secretly lived on Earth for centuries. Their presence was protected by a hidden group known as the Order of Witwickans, of which Burton is the last surviving member. He explains that the talisman can lead them to Merlin's staff, which lies buried in a Cybertronian spacecraft under the ocean. It is also revealed that Vivian is a direct descendant of Merlin's bloodline, and she is the only one who can control the staff's power. Before they can continue their mission, the authorities discover their location, forcing the group to flee. Following a trail of clues while being chased, they reach the Royal Navy Museum, where they take control of the submarine HMS Alliancia, which is actually a transformer to head underwater in search of the spacecraft, all while the TRF and Navy SEALs pursue them. Transformers: The Last Night. Production, release, reception, analysis. Production. The production of Transformers: The Last Night began taking shape following the release of Transformers: Age of Extinction in 2014. Following the release of Transformers: Age of Extinction, 2014, Paramount Pictures tasked Akiva Goldsman in March 2015 to work with the film franchise's director Michael Bay, executive producer Steven Spielberg, and producer Lorenzo di Bonaventura to set up a writer's room to create ideas for future Transformers films. This innovative approach to franchise development represented a significant shift in how Paramount planned to approach the Transformers universe, moving beyond single-film development to a more comprehensive, interconnected narrative strategy. The writer's room concept was designed to maximize creative potential while ensuring consistency across multiple projects. According to Goldsman, the writing team would look at various Transformers media created by Hasbro for inspiration. If they found one that interested them, they could submit the treatment, which would then be further developed by the whole team. This collaborative approach allowed the production team to draw from decades of Transformers lore, spanning animated series, comic books, toy lines, and previous films. The scale of this production endeavor was substantial, with Paramount investing heavily in the Michigan film industry. Paramount Pictures spent $80 million on production in Michigan, in return for $21 million in state incentives, under agreements entered into before the state legislature eliminated the Film Office Incentive Program in July 2015. This investment represented one of the largest film productions in Michigan's history and provided significant economic benefits to the state, creating hundreds of jobs and generating substantial economic activity throughout the region. The production team assembled for The Last Night was extensive and experienced. Approximately 850 cast and crew were hired, 450 of whom were Michigan residents, equating to 228 full-time positions. This hiring approach demonstrated Paramount's commitment to utilizing local talent and resources, while also fulfilling the requirements of their incentive agreements with the state of Michigan. Beyond the core production crew, the film required an enormous number of background performers and extras. Additionally, 700 extras were hired from among Detroit residents, as part of Paramount's incentive deal with the state. These extras would populate various scenes throughout the film, from action sequences to crowd scenes, helping to create the populated world that the Transformers inhabited. The production design and visual effects requirements for The Last Night were particularly complex, building upon the established aesthetic of the previous films while introducing new elements and characters. The film's production benefited from advances in visual effects technology that had occurred since Age of Extinction, allowing for more detailed and realistic robot characters, more complex transformation sequences, and more seamless integration between live-action and computer-generated elements. The production also faced unique challenges related to the film's international scope and ambitious narrative that spanned centuries of history. The story's connection to Arthurian legend and historical events required extensive research and consultation with historians and mythology experts to ensure that the fantastical elements of the Transformers universe could be believably integrated with real historical periods and figures. Equipment and technical specifications for the production were cutting edge for their time. Scenes were shot in at least 4 different aspect ratios, including 1.90 to 1, IMAX, 2.00:1, Univisum, 2.28 to 1, 2.39 to 1, Panavision. This has been stated by the movie's director of photography, Jonathan Sella, to be due to a large number of different types of cameras on set, including the Red 6K Weapon Dragon, the Alexa IMAX 3D rig and the IMAX 3D Phantom 65. The production's ambitious scope extended to its international elements, with significant portions of the film being shot in multiple countries across different continents. This global approach to production not only served the story's international scope but also took advantage of various tax incentives and location-specific resources that could enhance the film's production value while managing costs. Development and pre-production. The development phase of Transformers: The Last Knight was characterized by significant changes in creative personnel and approach. Initially, in July 2015, Goldsman and Jeff Pinkner signed on as writers. However, the creative team underwent substantial changes as development progressed, reflecting the complex nature of managing a large-scale franchise project with multiple stakeholders and creative visions. As the project evolved, additional writers were brought aboard to refine and develop the screenplay. On November 20th, due to Goldsman's commitments creating a writer's room for G.I. Joe and Micronauts properties, Paramount began to negotiate with Art Markham and Matt Holloway, as well as Ken Nolan, to write the film. Lindsay Beer and Geneva Robertson Doherty were also brought aboard for writing duties. This expansion of the writing team reflected both the complexity of the story being developed and Paramount's commitment to ensuring the script met the high standards required for a major tentpole release. Michael Bay's involvement in the project was initially uncertain, as he had previously expressed his intention to step back from the Transformers franchise. Bay had decided not to direct any future Transformers films after Age of Extinction, but in early January 2016, he stated that he would return to direct the fifth film as his last. Bay's return was crucial for maintaining continuity with the established visual style and tone of the franchise, while his declaration that this would be his final Transformers film added particular significance to the project. The pre-production phase involved extensive casting efforts across multiple continents. In February 2016, there were casting calls for new lead and supporting roles in Los Angeles and London, and Peter Cullen was announced as returning to voice Optimus Prime. The international casting approach reflected the film's global scope and Paramount's desire to appeal to worldwide audiences. Key creative personnel were assembled during pre-production, including cinematographer Jonathan Sella. In April 2016, Paramount hired cinematographer Jonathan Sella. Sella's involvement was particularly important given the film's complex visual requirements and the need to maintain visual consistency with previous entries in the franchise while introducing new visual elements. The film's title and initial marketing elements were revealed during pre-production. On May 17, Bay revealed the official title of the film to be The Last Knight on his Instagram account, where he also posted a production video showing a close-up of Optimus Prime's face with purple eyes instead of blue, and his face mostly discolored. This title reveal was accompanied by mysterious marketing elements, including the official Twitter account showed a 19-second short video in Morse code that translates to "I'm coming for you May 31st. The revelation of Megatron's return was a significant development during pre-production. On May 31st, it was revealed that Megatron would return in the sequel. This announcement was particularly significant given the character's apparent destruction in previous films and represented a major plot point that would drive much of the film's conflict. Voice acting was a crucial component of pre-production, given the importance of the Transformer characters to the franchise. Longtime Transformers voice actor Frank Welker voices Megatron for the first time in the live-action film series, reprising the role from the Transformers and various other media. Welker's involvement was particularly meaningful to longtime fans of the franchise, as he had been the original voice of Megatron in the 1980s animated series. The pre-production period also involved extensive technical planning for the film's complex action sequences and visual effects. The integration of practical effects with computer-generated imagery required careful coordination between multiple departments, including stunt coordination, special effects, visual effects, and cinematography. This planning phase was crucial for ensuring that production could proceed smoothly and efficiently once principal photography began. The development of the film's historical elements required significant research and consultation during pre-production. The integration of Transformers mythology with Arthurian legend and other historical periods demanded careful attention to historical accuracy where possible, while also maintaining the fantastical elements that were central to the Transformers universe. This balance between historical authenticity and science fiction fantasy represented one of the film's most challenging creative aspects. Filming principal photography for Transformers: The Last Night commenced with an international approach that reflected the film's global scope. Principal photography began on May 25, 2016, in Havana, Cuba, with a few scenes shot by a small team. The decision to begin filming in Cuba was particularly notable, as it represented one of the first major American film productions to shoot in the country following the normalization of diplomatic relations between the United States and Cuba. The production then moved to various locations across the United States, with significant filming taking place in Phoenix, Arizona. Filming continued on June 6, 2016, in Phoenix, Arizona, and on June 19, 2016, in Detroit, Michigan, under the working title E75, with additional filming taking place in Chicago, Illinois. The use of multiple American cities allowed the production to take advantage of diverse architectural and geographic settings while also benefiting from various state and local film incentives. Detroit served as a major filming hub for the production, with extensive use of both interior and exterior locations throughout the city. In Detroit, filming took place in the Michigan Motion Pictures Studio, Packard Plant, Michigan Central Station, Café Mongo's Speakeasy, and MGM Grand Detroit. These locations provided a range of settings, from industrial complexes that could serve as transformer hiding places to urban environments for action sequences. The international portion of filming was extensive, covering multiple countries across Europe. Production moved to Europe on August 21, and filming commenced on August 22 in Scotland and Wales. In England, filming took place in North Yorkshire, Newcastle upon Tyne, Northumberland, London, Gosport and Stonehenge. Between August and October, filming occurred in Northern Ireland, Antry Ixtlan, Trolltunga and Atlanterhavsveien in Norway. One of the most significant international filming locations was Trinity College Dublin, which served as a stand-in for Oxford University. The Trinity Library Oxford scene was filmed in the Old Library, Trinity College Dublin. This location provided the grand, historical atmosphere required for scenes involving the film's academic characters and their research into Transformer history. Specific filming locations in England provided unique challenges and opportunities for the production. In early September 2016, filming took place in Alnwick Castle in Alnwick, Northumberland in England, including car chase scenes. The use of historical castles and monuments added authentic period atmosphere to the film's historical sequences. The production encountered interesting situations during location filming, including unexpected interactions with local communities. Production continued at St. Aidan's Church, Sea Houses, where Wahlberg spent an hour inside the church and reportedly donated £200. Reverend Father Dame Given said, "I didn't even know he was in church until he left." One of my parishioners, Danielle Love, recognized him and explained who he was. "It's great that we had him in for the service, and we appreciate his generosity towards our church." Action sequences required filming in multiple locations to achieve the desired scale and variety. Car chases were also filmed at the monument area of Newcastle upon Tyne, where Josh Duhamel was filming, while Wahlberg and Sir Anthony Hopkins continued at Alnwick, Sea Houses and the Bamburgh region of Northumberland. These chase sequences represented some of the film's most technically challenging scenes, requiring coordination between stunt performers, special effects teams, and multiple camera units. Naval locations were utilized for specific story elements involving underwater sequences. In late September 2016, filming was spotted in Gosport, Hampshire at the Royal Navy Submarine Museum. These locations provided authentic military settings that enhanced the film's themes involving secret government operations and historical military connections. London served as a major filming location, with production utilizing various historical and modern locations throughout the city. On October 5, 2016, Filming was spotted at St. Bartholomew the Great, London. London filming wrapped on October 27, 2016. The use of London's historic churches and buildings provided authentic British atmosphere for the film's UK-based sequences. The filming schedule was extensive, reflecting the ambitious scope of the production. Principal photography wrapped on December 4, 2016. This extended filming schedule, lasting approximately 6 months, was necessary to accommodate the multiple international locations, complex action sequences, and extensive visual effects requirements. One particularly controversial filming situation arose during production at Blenheim Palace. On September 21, 2016, shooting for a particular scene took place in Blenheim Palace, Woodstock, Oxfordshire in England, the home of Sir Winston Churchill, the British Prime Minister during World War II. The mansion was dressed as a Nazi swastika-draped headquarters for Adolf Hitler for filming. Tony Hayes of the UK Veterans Association stated that surviving World War II ex-servicemen and women would be appalled. The controversy was addressed by members of Churchill's family, with Churchill's grandson and British Parliament member Sir Nicholas Soames dismissed the controversy entirely, stating, "They've no idea what my grandfather would have thought." The proximity of the filming location to Churchill's burial site added additional sensitivity to the situation, as Churchill is buried less than a mile away, at St. Martin's Church, Bladon. The filming process involved extensive coordination between multiple units working simultaneously in different locations. This approach allowed the production to maximize efficiency and take advantage of weather windows and location availability, but it also required sophisticated logistical coordination to ensure consistency in performances, technical specifications, and visual continuity across all units. Post-production. The post-production phase of Transformers: The Last Night was characterized by extensive visual effects work and complex technical challenges. As with previous Transformers installments, Industrial Light Magic served as the main visual effects company for Transformers: The Last Night. In early 2016, the company showed an underwater rendering of crash-landed alien spaceship and a new dump truck transformer with a cloak. The visual effects work for The Last Night represented some of the most complex computer-generated imagery ever created for the Transformers franchise. The film featured numerous new Transformer characters, each requiring detailed design work, complex transformation sequences, and realistic integration with live-action footage. The underwater sequences were particularly challenging, requiring the creation of realistic underwater physics and lighting effects while maintaining the scale and detail expected from Transformers action sequences. The film's historical elements required extensive digital recreation of past time periods, including medieval settings and World War II environments. These sequences demanded careful attention to historical accuracy in terms of architecture, costumes, and environmental details, while also accommodating the fantastical elements of Transformer technology within historically appropriate contexts. One of the most significant technical challenges in post-production was managing the film's multiple aspect ratios. The decision to shoot with various camera systems and formats created complex workflow requirements in post-production, as editors and visual effects artists had to ensure consistency and quality across all aspect ratios while maintaining the intended visual impact of each sequence. The scale of the visual effects work required extensive coordination between Industrial Light Magic and various other visual effects companies that contributed to specific sequences. This collaborative approach allowed the production to leverage specialized expertise from different facilities while maintaining overall visual continuity throughout the film. The editing process for The Last Night was particularly complex due to the film's extensive action sequences and multiple storylines. The film's final runtime of 149 minutes represented a significant amount of material that had to be carefully structured to maintain narrative flow while accommodating the spectacular action sequences that audiences expected from the franchise. Color grading and final image processing were crucial elements of post-production, particularly given the film's complex visual palette that ranged from historical periods to futuristic Cybertronian environments. The post-production team had to ensure ensure that the various visual elements maintain consistency while also allowing each sequence to have its own distinct visual character appropriate to its narrative function. The integration of practical and digital effects was a major focus during post-production. While the Transformer characters were primarily computer-generated, many sequences combined practical explosions, vehicle stunts, and physical set pieces with digital enhancements. This integration required careful matching of lighting, shadow, and physical physics to create seamless composite images. Audio post-production was equally complex, involving not only the creation of distinctive sound profiles for each Transformer character but also the design of transformation sounds, weapon effects, and environmental audio for the film's diverse settings. The iconic transformation sounds that had become synonymous with the franchise required updating and refinement for the new characters while maintaining the familiar auditory elements that fans expected. The film's extensive international shooting created additional post-production challenges related to matching footage shot in different countries under varying lighting conditions and weather patterns. Color correction and digital environment work were often necessary to maintain visual consistency between sequences shot in different locations but intended to represent the same narrative space. Quality control and technical delivery were significant aspects of post-production, particularly given the film's planned release in multiple formats including IMAX, 3D, and various digital projection systems. Each format required specific technical specifications and quality standards, necessitating multiple versions of the final film optimized for different exhibition systems. Music. The musical composition for Transformers: The Last Knight represented both continuity with the franchise's established sound and innovation appropriate to the film's unique historical elements. On September 27, it was confirmed that Steve Oblonsky would return to write the score, having composed the music for the first 4 films. The score was released digitally on the film's original release date, Friday, June 23, 2017, and a limited edition 2-disc CD set of 3,000 units were released by La La Land Records on July 25, 2017. The scope of Oblonsky's work for The Last Knight was significantly expanded compared to previous entries in the franchise. Unlike the previous film scores, which contained anywhere from 14 to 23 tracks, the film's soundtrack contains 34 tracks, amounting to over 2 hours of music. This expanded musical palette reflected the film's ambitious narrative scope and its integration of historical elements with the established Transformers mythology. Oblonsky's approach to the score was influenced by the film's unique historical connections and thematic elements. In discussing his compositional process, he explained how the film's historical elements influenced his musical choices. "I met with Michael before he started shooting Transformers: The Last Knight. He showed me some amazing concept art and explained how the story connects the history of Transformers all the way back to the times of King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table. I loved the idea because it gave me the opportunity to explore new musical ideas. The storyline allowed me to write melodies that are a bit more classical than I've written for the other Transformers films, which was a lot of fun for me." The composer also addressed how the film's darker elements influenced his musical approach, particularly regarding the mysterious appearance of Unicron's horns. Another important aspect of the story revolves around massive skyscraper-sized horns from hell that start emerging from the earth. They look like gigantic animal horns, but no one knows what they are or why they have appeared. I wanted to create an unsettling sense of mystery and tension with the music. The musical themes for The Last Knight built upon the established leitmotifs from previous films while introducing new thematic material appropriate to the expanded cast of characters and historical elements. The Autobot and Decepticon themes underwent development and variation to reflect the characters' evolving situations and relationships throughout the film. The historical sequences required Oblonsky to create musical material that could convincingly represent medieval and other historical periods while maintaining connection to the futuristic elements of the Transformers universe. This challenge required extensive research into period-appropriate musical styles and instrumentation, while also ensuring that these elements could be integrated seamlessly with the established Transformers musical vocabulary. The recording process for the score involved collaboration with the London Symphony Orchestra and other world-class musicians to achieve the epic scale and emotional depth required for the film's ambitious narrative. The orchestral arrangements were particularly complex, incorporating both traditional orchestral sections and contemporary electronic elements to create the distinctive sound that had become associated with the Transformers franchise. The score's thematic development reflected the film's character arcs and narrative progression, with musical themes evolving and transforming throughout the film in parallel with the characters' journeys. Optimus Prime's theme, in particular, underwent significant development to reflect his corruption and eventual redemption arc throughout the story. The integration of the score with the film's extensive action sequences required careful coordination between the composer, music editor, and sound design team. The music had to complement and enhance the complex soundscape of Transformer battles while maintaining its own musical integrity and dramatic impact. The technical aspects of recording and producing the score were particularly challenging given the film's multiple format requirements and the need to ensure that the music would translate effectively across different exhibition systems, from IMAX theaters to home viewing environments. Released Theatrical. The theatrical release strategy for Transformers: The Last Night was designed to maximize global box office potential while accommodating various international market considerations. Transformers: The Last Night was released on June 21, 2017. After being moved up from its original June 23 release date. This schedule adjustment reflected Paramount's strategic considerations regarding competition from other summer blockbusters and international market timing. The film's premiere was a significant international event that highlighted the global nature of the Transformers franchise. It premiered on June 18, 2017. At the Odeon Lux Leicester Square Inches, London, and was released in the United States on June 21. By Paramount Pictures. The choice of London for the premiere was appropriate given the significant portion of the film that was shot in the United Kingdom and the importance of the British market to the franchise's international success. The release strategy involved coordinated international rollouts designed to optimize box office performance across different markets. This approach took into consideration various factors including local holidays, competition from other films, and regional preferences for blockbuster entertainment. The film was released in multiple formats to accommodate different theater configurations and audience preferences. These formats included standard digital projection, IMAX, 3D, and various premium large format screens. Each format required specific technical preparation and quality control to ensure optimal presentation. Marketing for the theatrical release was extensive and international in scope, involving promotional campaigns across television, digital media, print advertising, and promotional partnerships. The marketing strategy emphasized the film's spectacular action sequences, star performances, and the promise that this would be Michael Bay's final Transformers film. International distribution involved partnerships with various regional distributors and exhibitors to ensure broad global availability. The film's international appeal was particularly important given the franchise's strong performance in overseas markets, especially China, where previous Transformers films had achieved significant commercial success. The theatrical release faced competition from several other major blockbuster films during the summer 2017 movie season, including Wonder Woman, Spider-Man: Homecoming, and Despicable Me 3. This competitive environment influenced both the film's marketing strategy and its ultimate commercial performance. Home media. The home media release strategy for Transformers: The Last Night was designed to capitalize on the film's visual spectacle while providing additional value for home viewers. Transformers: The Last Night was released on digital HD on September 12, 2017, and on Blu-ray, Blu-ray 4K, Blu-ray 3D and DVD on September 26, 2017. In North America, the multiple format approach for home media release reflected the diverse preferences and capabilities of home entertainment systems. The inclusion of 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray was particularly significant, as it allowed viewers to experience the film's visual effects and cinematography at higher resolution and with enhanced color depth compared to standard home video formats. The digital release strategy preceded the physical media release to capture early demand from viewers who preferred digital ownership or rental. This windowing strategy had become standard practice for major studio releases, allowing for multiple revenue streams from the same content. It was also released in a collection with the 4 previous films. This collection approach provided value for franchise completists while also serving as an entry point for viewers who might be new to the series. The packaging of multiple films together also created opportunities for premium pricing and enhanced profit margins. The home media release included various bonus features designed to provide additional value and insight into the film's production. These typically included deleted scenes, behind-the-scenes documentaries, commentary tracks, and other supplementary content that enhanced the viewing experience beyond the theatrical presentation. The home media performance was a crucial component of the film's overall financial performance, particularly given the high production and marketing costs associated with major blockbuster releases. The film grossed $36.3 million in home sales. While substantial, this figure was considered modest relative to the film's production budget and theatrical performance. International home media releases were staggered according to regional market practices and distribution partnerships. Different regions often received varying bonus content and packaging options based on local preferences and licensing arrangements. The technical specifications for home media releases were particularly important for The Last Night given its complex visual effects and multiple aspect ratios. Each format required careful optimization to ensure that the film's visual impact translated effectively to home viewing environments. The marketing strategy for home media release focused on the film's spectacular action sequences and the convenience of home ownership. Special attention was paid to highlighting the enhanced features available in premium formats such as 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray. Reception box office. The box office performance of Transformers: The Last Night represented a significant disappointment for Paramount Pictures and marked the turning point for the franchise's commercial trajectory. Transformers: The Last Night grossed $130.1 million in the United States and Canada and $475.3 million in other territories for a worldwide total of $605.4 million. Against a production budget of $260 million. These figures represented the lowest performance in the franchise's history and fell well short of studio expectations. The film reportedly lost Paramount over $100 million and was deemed a commercial failure due to competition from Despicable Me 3, Wonder Woman, Spider-Man: Homecoming, War for the Planet of the Apes, and Dunkirk, with the latter making the least in worldwide earnings when comparing the 5 films, but Transformers: The Last Night had the least total in North America. The domestic box office performance was particularly concerning for the franchise. In North America, The Last Night was originally projected to gross $75 million from 4,069 theaters over its first 5 days, which would have been the lowest debut of the franchise. However, the actual performance was even worse than these reduced expectations. However, after the film grossed the franchise low $15.7 million on its first day, including $5.5 million from Tuesday night previews, opening estimates were lowered to $65 million. On Thursday, it grossed $8.1 million. Potentially dropping the 5-day debut to under $60 million. The film's opening weekend performance confirmed the franchise's declining domestic appeal. It ended up having an opening weekend of $44.7 million, the lowest debut of the franchise by $25 million, and lowest since the first film's $70.5 million. The film's 5-day gross of $68.5 million was also lower than every 3-day opening of the previous 4 films. The decline continued in subsequent weekends, with particularly steep drops that indicated poor word of mouth and limited audience satisfaction. The film grossed $16.9 million in its second weekend, dropping 62.2% and finishing third at the box office, and $6.4 million in its third, dropping an identical 62.2% and finishing fifth. International performance, while stronger than domestic results, still fell short of expectations, particularly in key markets. Internationally, The Last Night opened in its first 42 international territories alongside its United States debut, including major markets China, the UK, Russia, Australia, Germany, Italy, South Korea, and Hong Kong, and was projected to have an opening of $167.2 million. China had been particularly important for the franchise's recent success, making the performance in that market crucial for the film's overall commercial viability. Due to its predecessor's success in China, expectations were high for the film in the country. Box office observers and trackers believed the film would open $100 million, and end its run there with anywhere between $290 to $400 million. The actual international performance, while substantial, fell short of these optimistic projections. The film ended up having a global debut of $265.3 million, $196.2 million from other territories, including $123.4 million from China, representing 63% of the film's international opening. In the film's second week in China, it fell 76% and had a running cumulative total of $147.6 million. The final international market breakdown revealed the global nature of the film's performance but also highlighted the concentration of revenue in specific territories. The film's largest markets outside North America were China, $228.8 million, South Korea, $19.2 million, Russia, $15.9 million, Germany, $15.4 million, Mexico, $15.3 million, UK, $12.2 million, Brazil, $13.7 million, Indonesia, $11.7 million, Japan, $15.7 million, and France, $11 million. The commercial disappointment of The Last Night had significant implications for the future of the Transformers franchise, leading to re-evaluations of the property's direction and the eventual development of different approaches to the brand, including the more intimate and critically successful Bumblebee film that followed. Critical response. The critical reception of Transformers: The Last Night was overwhelmingly negative, with reviewers citing familiar franchise problems while also noting some unique issues specific to this installment. On Rotten Tomatoes, Transformers: The Last Night has an approval rating of 16% based on 256 reviews and an average rating of 3.5, the lowest of the 7 films in the Transformers series. The site's critical consensus reads, cacophonous, thinly plotted, and boasting state-of-the-art special effects. The Last Night is pretty much what you'd expect from the 5th installment of the Transformers franchise. Professional review aggregation services reflected the critical consensus that the film failed to meet even modest expectations. On Metacritic, the film has a weighted average score of 27 out of 100 based on 47 critics, indicating generally unfavorable reviews. Audience reception was more positive than critical response, though still tepid compared to typical blockbuster standards. Audiences polled by CinemaScore gave the film an average grade of B+ on an A+ to F scale, the same as Transformers: Revenge of the Fallen, 2009, while Post-Track reported filmgoers gave a 75% overall positive score and a 55% definite recommend. Several prominent critics delivered particularly harsh assessments of the film. Peter Travers of Rolling Stone gave the film a 0-star review, as he did to the previous films, saying every time Michael Bay directs another Transformers abomination, this is the 5th. The movies die a little. This one makes the summer's other blockbuster misfires look like masterpieces. Other critics focused on the film's excessive length and narrative incoherence. Mike Ryan of Approx gave the film a negative review, criticizing its running time and incoherent plot, writing, "I have no proof Transformers: The Last Night will kill your brain cells, but I wouldn't be surprised to learn that it doesn't. I'd proceed with caution just in case. But I can say with absolute certainty that after watching, your head will hurt. Some reviewers found marginal improvements over previous entries while still maintaining overall negative assessments. Emily Yoshida of Vulture.com gave the film a negative review but wrote, "I feel slightly worried about how little I hated it." Yash number 1 with Transformers illegal on Earth and Optimus Prime AWOL. The war between Transformers and the TRF, Transformers Reaction Force, is raging. In a last-ditch effort to save humanity, inventor Cade Yeager, Mark Wahlberg, and Bumblebee join forces with an English Earl, Anthony Hopkins, and Oxford professor, Laura Haddock, to find an all-powerful staff as a way of future-proofing the planet. Believe it or not, Transformers, in its live-action movie iteration, is now 10 years old. For its first hour at least, there was something human, relatable and charming in Michael Bay's original, a boy, Shia LaBeouf, who loved his car, Bumblebee, and wanted the unattainable girl, Megan Fox. Now fifth time out, the knack of coming up with anything so simple and likable has eluded Bay. As in Revenge of the Fallen, Dark of the Moon and Age of Extinction, The Last Night is bogged down in backstory, lacks a real feel for its characters and still can't find a way to make its robot action exhilarating. Overlong, overstuffed and soulless. The first project to emerge from the Transformers writer's room, where it is permanently twilight, The Last Night starts well in the Dark Ages. After fireballs wittily fly over the Paramount Mountain, Bay mounts a full-on Arthurian battle far more exciting than Guy Ritchie's, featuring trebuchets, knights blasted sky-high into the air and a three-headed mechanical dragon that lays waste to an entire battlefield. This prologue gives rise to the MacGuffin, a talisman that will lead you to the staff that gives you ultimate power in the universe. Of course, the talisman quickly falls into the hands of inventor, Autobot sympathizer Cade Yeager, Mark Wahlberg, who has saved Isabella, Marner, Rey from The Force Awakens, who fixes things alongside BB-8 alike robots squeaks and now hides out in a junkyard. The plot, as it is, sees various parties hunt Yeager to find the talisman. The hardnet military TRF, Decepticons, Optimus Prime who goes rogue after a visit to Cybertron, and Anthony Hopkins as batshit crazy Earl Sir Edmund Burton, keeper of Transformers lore, who whisks Cade and Bumblebee to England. You'll note Isabella has been forgotten about. Here, Cade is introduced to Laura Haddock's polo-playing professor of seemingly everything at Oxford University, Vivian Wembley. Happily, Haddock is saved the ogling foisted on Fox and Rosie Huntington-Whiteley, who turns out to be a descendant of a society of luminaries who have worked over the ages to keep the Transformers a secret on Earth. Other members include, spot the odd one out, Shakespeare, Mozart, Einstein and Sam Witwicky. To illustrate the point, there is a laugh-out-loud funny shot of LaBeouf. Number 2. A film primarily about good robots fighting naughty robots has no business being 2 hours and 28 minutes long. Worse, Transformers, The Last Night is so convoluted and drawn out that it feels like double that amount of time has passed. Just like the rest of this series, Michael Bay's fifth Transformers film sees the Autobots, good, fight the Decepticons, naughty, for little more reason than that's simply what they do. And, just like the rest, it tries to crowbar Transformers lore into human history and legends, almost to the point where it seems like Earth belongs more to these big old cars with faces than to us. This time around it's King Arthur and the Crusades, where we see that Merlin, played by a particularly silly Stanley Tucci, was given a magic staff by a Transformer, and that staff is now the key to saving the Transformers' home planet of Cybertron. If that sounds familiar, it's because that same idea is literally what happens in almost every single Transformers movie to date. In this first film it was a dusty pair of glasses that held the key to saving Cybertron, and now it's a big stick. It was a flimsy excuse for a plot then, and it's tired and flimsy now. Mark Wahlberg is back as Cade Yeager and spends the entire film looking totally confused by every situation he's presented with. He's helped by Laura Haddock's Oxford University professor Vivian Wembley, who adds a more badass air of smarts to the Transformers movie's leading lady mold. One of the sillier highlights is Anthony Hopkins babbling on about robots as historian and astronomer Sir Edmund Burton. Hearing an Oscar-winning actor and actual Britishanite talking in-depth Autobot lore was genuinely quite funny, whether intentional or not. This is helped by his robot butler sidekick, Cagman, brought to life by Jim Carter doing an exact impression of his Downton Abbey human butler character. I'd pay to see those two in their own film, solving space mysteries up and down the British coast. This, sadly, is not that movie, and their potential goes to waste. Number 3. Transformers: The Last Night is an apocalyptic identity crisis come to life. Michael Bay's latest explosive offering wants to be everything a medieval romp, an outer space spectacle, a taut action thriller. But it succeeds only in suturing together the worst aspects of each genre, clinging to the dregs of its more intelligent predecessors. The film jokes that one of the Transformers looks like a C-3PO ripoff, an attempt at pop cultural awareness that feels more like a self-inflicted punch in the face. Watching this film is like stepping into the most hideous dystopian time linear, not one where powerful alien cars rise up and take over the world, but one where the only studio movies that get made are born of manic, biased nightmares, stuffed with fiery explosions and dull fight scenes. It's a dystopia where plot is non-existent, where the dialogue is so spare that it could easily be replaced by a lead character simply grunting, "We want to save Earth." It's a very disheartening world. But this is the 5th Transformers installment, after all, and these remarkably bad and aggressive films are still guaranteed to make buckets of cash at home and overseas, meaning that maybe we're already living in it. Transformers: The Last Night begins, inexplicably, as an Arthurian tale, with men in battle waiting for a drunkard named Merlin to save the day with his rumored magical powers. For all its absurdity, this sequence is actually kind of enjoyably campy, held together by a game Stanley Tucci as the boozy wizard and one of the most incredible sights I have ever seen, a black knight whose hair is flat-ironed and gently braided into a half-up, half-down hairstyle, like a medieval version of Andre 3000 in the Hey Ya music video. How did he get that look? Solar-powered stones? Magic? Alas, it's over far too soon, and the story quickly jumps into the present day. Transformers are now at war with humans, minus good guys like Kate Yeager, a returning Mark Wahlberg, and a spunky teenage girl named Isabella, with a Z, played by newcomer Isabella Moner. Meanwhile, an Oxford professor with a penchant for strappy heels and bodycon dresses named Vivian Wembley, Laura Haddock, teams up with the rich, rambling Sir Edmund Burton, Anthony Hopkins. He pairs her up with Yedra, who immediately dismisses Vivian for wearing a stripper dress, which should clue you into the film's odious sensibility. Say what you will about Shia LaBeouf, but in retrospect, he's looking more and more like an underrated snake charmer of Bay's apoplectic vision. Number 4. It's robots battling King Arthur and director Michael Bay's 5th go-round as director of the gigantic toy commercial franchise. What could possibly go wrong? The prominent action movie maestro Michael Bay has given us the 5th movie in the Transformers toy retail film franchise, or maybe it is the 45th. It is difficult to tell, just as it is difficult to remember precisely how many cars were involved in a motorway pile-up in which you have been injured. We're talking about the same steroidal infantilism as the previous 4 films, the same epic of tinnitus-inducing pointlessness that audiences have come to love or hate or sullenly wait to be over. Like so many of Michael Bay's movies, it is a machine for converting your brain matter into soup, although I have a soft spot for Bay's rather funny action comedy Pain and Gain, from 2013. Transformers: The Last Night comes in at 149 minutes, and each of those minutes lasts as long as the reign of Charlemagne. Once again, normal-sized cars turn themselves into gigantic robots, while professional actors and technicians watch something comparably tumescent happen to their bank accounts. This is reputed to be Bay's final Transformers movie as director, a farewell he clearly regards important enough to make this a colossal return of the King-type finale. Like Tom Cruise's recent Mummy actioner, it begins with a quaint vision of olden days Arthurian Britain, in which the Transformers' extraterrestrial origins are made plain. This situation is created to lend instant mythic texture and purpose to what is, after all, a gigantic toy commercial. When this sense of an ending dawns on you, somewhere after the 110th minute, there is a glimmer of hope, a feeling that the Transformers ordeal might be over. But oh number, there are at least 2 more films in the pipeline, a Rogue One-style spin-off for the tiny Bumblebee Autobot character, and a 6th movie, and this future is hinted at in a final credits sting. It is cruel and usual punishment. Mark Wahlberg, that dependable actor-bot, is brought back to reprise the character he played in the previous film, with its infuriatingly inaccurate title of Transformers: Age of Extinction. If only, he is the inventor Cade Yeager, now effectively an outlaw living apart from the daughter who was supposedly important in the previous film. Autobot leader Optimus Prime is now absent from Earth, and while other countries might have come to various accommodations with the Transformers, in the US there is conflict between them and the paramilitary Transformers Reaction Force, TRF. But this whole tense situation is prefaced by what happened 1,600 years earlier, a vision of knights of old battling on England's greensward and Arthur's magician Merlin being entrusted with a mighty wand by a crash-landed space creature, for the purposes of assisting Arthur in defeating the forces of wickedness, which have irradiated the good guys' quasi-Christian cruciform breastplates. Merlin is played, gamely enough, by Stanley Tucci, who is chalking up his second Transformers appearance. Number 5. If you ignore the fact that Prime looks obviously evil in the posture a broken bar, it's hard to disagree with the message. If one planet is going to die, then shouldn't it be Earth? Those guys are always picking on the Autobots and destroying themselves anyway. Even if the Transformer movies have not been all that good historically, they do certainly have great posters and thrillers. If nothing else, they always do a good job of drawing you in. On that note, I went to the theaters to watch this latest installment, but could it hold its own against the last few and even surpass them? Time to find out. Well, the film starts off with a prolonged action scene back in the days of the 12 Knights. It's as boring as you'd expect, with very generic bombs being thrown and people stabbing each other. Films like this one keep reminding me why action scenes should all take place in the modern day alongside big buildings and cool effects. The drunk Merlin gets the Autobots to help him, so they destroy the other side. Merlin is even given the Staff of Power, which has the ability to destroy and recreate whole planets. He literally takes it to the grave. We cut away to the present day, where a girl by the name of Isabella is saving a few kids who broke into a government-protected site with killer machines running around. They shoot to kill, and that includes kids. But fortunately Cade and his resistance pals like Bumblebee show up and finish off the government robots. The kids run off, but Isabella stays with Cade since she wants to fight. The two characters trade sob stories while Cade has a beer. The film made sure to show that it was a Bud Light, and then Mr. Edmund shows up to tell the heroes that they have to find the Scepter of Power and stop the incoming invasion. He has also located and brought in a lady named Vivian, who is a descendant of Merlin and the only one who can wield it. Naturally Vivian and Cade don't get along, but none of the characters do. Can they at least stop the invasion, or will their not so subtle insults against each other take top priority? Oh yeah, Megatron's also around. This is 100% the Michael Bay film. You can tell because it follows all of the classic tropes. The only good one is that we get a ton of explosions. There's constantly something catching fire and blowing up. Everyone gets to be in an explosion at some point or other, and that was interesting. Well, interesting isn't the right word, but at least it's something to catch your attention, even if you know that it's just trying to cover up the lack of a plot. Unfortunately, the other cliches are here. Naturally, when Vivian is brought to the castle, she decided to bring along a rather inappropriate outfit for business. It's not as if it would be a huge deal, but of course Cade brings it up and they have a pretty sad conversation about it. Keep in mind that these two were enemies at first, but Cade quotes a random philosopher once they're okay. He shows off his six-pack once and they are immediately past the friend zone. The flirting and fan service were pretty sad, and while not as bad as in previous films, I had a feeling the film would bring this into the picture. Number 6. With each successive Transformers film making even more than the last, with the films now making in excess of $1 billion, the relentless march of metal continues apace, with this latest entry apparently being the last to be directed by Michael Bay, bringing his usual brand of mayhem to the proceedings. But what's different here is the levity, because it's chock full of quips and asides and almost seems to be laughing at itself. Starting in Arthurian England in almost Monty Python style, with Stanley Tucci as a drunken Merlin cantering around on his horse and engaging with one of the Transformers, who gives him a magic stick of destiny or some such gubbins, which gives King Arthur a victory in battle. Yes, because like the fourth film where we had robo-dinosaurs, this latest film plunders the Arthurian legend before fasting-forwarding 1,600 years, and the plot hops about all over the world: USA, UK, Havana, Namibia, Jordan, taking in a load of different characters including a bunch of kids, Anthony Hopkins, John Turturro, and of course Mark Wahlberg, which is where the plot eventually settles with, as he is pursued by a bunch of government soldiers. Wahlberg is eventually summoned to Sir Edmund Burton in his English castle. Hopkins is having a whale of a time playing Sir Edmund and chews up the scenery as much as the Transformers destroy it. It's at his castle that Wahlberg is teamed up with the highly improbable and stunningly gorgeous Laura Haddock as an Oxford professor. Frankly, if we'd have had professor like that at Oxford, we would have gone to far more lectures. And together their animosity to each other turns toward Liu to who as they set about saving the world. Let the carnage commence. Well, it does almost from the opening moment, and what follows is 2.5 hours of relentless CGI metal mangling. So despite whatever we say, this will be a success, and Bay and his script writers throw in a load of jokes, and though the film can't resist its usual product placement, Bud Light can't have their moments. As usual, it's undoubtedly too long, to such a degree that Wahlberg's hair gets longer in successive scenes and Laura Haddock looks like a younger Angelina Jolie in a black stripper dress, which at one point she offers to take off immediately, getting the attention of every dad in the audience. With its seemingly obligatory, almost incoherent story, which includes such choice lines as, "I don't got a home," and that old favorite, "Ah, this isn't happening." Regrettably, though it isn't for fans of the franchise, it's more of the same. We look forward to Michael Bay doing a Jane Austen film adaptation. Number 7. One thing you can say for Michael Bay's work: it's consistent. Bay's name on a film project guarantees a fast-paced story filled with explosions and visually arresting action happening almost too fast to track. So it's no particular surprise that Transformers: The Last Knight, Bay's fifth Transformers movie in 10 years, unapologetically offers more of the same. It's a quintessential summer film, a big-budget romp requiring low brain activity. Even viewers who've never seen a Transformers movie before will kindly be handed everything they need to know in the first 20 minutes. Bay only asks that the audience shows up with enough fortitude to sit through Last Knight's 2.5-hour runtime. The franchise's previous installment, 2014's Transformers: Age of Extinction, handed the story over to a new hero, Cade Yeager, played by everyman actor Mark Wahlberg. Cade is a wisecracking inventor, patents are pending, who has become a wanted man. To avoid capture by a group of commandos known as the TRF, he spends most of his time hanging out in a desolate junkyard and placing one-ended phone calls to his daughter simply to hear her voice. That gives him more time with his friends, the Autobots, the transforming alien robots at the center of the long-running Transformers TV, comics, games, and movies franchise. The Autobots are constantly at the mechanical throats of their brethren, the sinister Decepticons. The two groups fight for a variety of reasons, which usually boil down to the Autobots fighting to protect Earth, while the Decepticons would sooner see it destroyed. Meanwhile, in the continuity of Bay's movies, humanity's leaders have decided all Transformers are bad news, and should be attacked on sight. This time around, Cade's loyalty to the Autobots leads him to ownership of an alien artifact, a key to an upcoming conflict. Soon, He's teamed with history buff Sir Edmund Burton, Anthony Hopkins, and Oxford professor Vivienne Wembley, Laura Haddock, as they work to figure out why Transformers keep crashing on Earth. The last night is exploding at the seams with plot lines. It opens with a callback to King Arthur and his Knights of the Round Table, and the dabbling of alcoholic wizard fraud Merlin. That's the backbone for the film's central conflict. Early on, the movie introduces a surrogate daughter for Cade, a scrappy little girl who's lost her family and has a preternatural knack for robot repair. Then it pushes her to the back seat when Vivienne's character starts to get real screen time. Vivienne, like every other character in this film, is never short on wit, and has a key role to ply a broken bar, but she's also predictably set up as a chemistry-light love interest for Cade, from the minute they're on screen together. Sir Burton acts as the plot's shepherd, tying together its mythical past and its explosive present, but once his role is fulfilled, his character is shuffled off screen so unceremoniously that it's laughable, in the most painful sense. The Autobots and Decepticons don't fare much better. Autobot leader Optimus Prime has gone sailing off through space to find his creator. Decepticon leader Megatron has a plot to revive the Transformers' home world. Their respective followers fall somewhere in between, with fan favorites like Bumblebee returning to round out a collection of otherwise unremarkable mech faces. The film's Transformers have always been larger-than-life characters, like John Goodman's cigar-chomping, gun-toting Autobot, Hound, or the C-3PO knockoff robot Butler Cogman, but their roles boil down to the same position they've always been in: they have to protect Earth and keep endlessly fighting Decepticons. Number 7. Robots in disguise. For many years, that's long been the thrilling pitch and sell with the Transformers franchise. I won't soon forget how much a younger me enjoyed the first Transformers film, and animated versions of the property. It's a compelling premise, this idea that the technology we've grown so attached to is secretly alive as alien robots. But for some reason, with each subsequent entry into the Transformers film universe, Michael Bay manages to muck it up even more. As listed above, I am not someone who goes into Transformers films, or any films for that matter, expecting to hate them. I want every film to succeed and do good, because then it just means a more exciting year for those of us who love the medium so much. But I can't bite my tongue when films are bad, and I certainly can't sit quietly when films are awful. Transformers: The Last Night's plot seems easy enough to follow, but that's where they get you. The premise is this: after the battle for Chicago and several other major events involving our robotic heroes, the Autobot Legion has gone into hiding and are considered outcasts. But there's a threat brewing, one that could destroy Earth, or Unicron, and a powerful sorceress working against the Autobots. The Last Night completely loses everything that made the franchise remotely enjoyable. Mark Wahlberg, while fun, has never been a suitable replacement for Shia LaBeouf's Sam Witwicky. The little kids that the movie centers so much in the trailer are barely in the film, and their roles are considerably underwritten. Bay's half-baked attempt at a strong female character was something I'm sure he expected to be a firecracker, but fizzles out the moment the character speaks. Number 7. Transformers: The Last Night has a deeper mythos and bigger spectacle than its predecessors, yet still ends up being mostly hollow and cacophonous. Following the events of Transformers: Age of Extinction, Optimus Prime, Peter Cullen, is still off in space, having set out in search of his Cybertronian creators. Meanwhile, the Autobots, Bumblebee included, remain fugitives on Earth, along with their current human ally, the inventor Cade Yeager. Mark Wahlberg, upon helping a group of kids who had inadvertently crossed paths with the Transformers Reaction Force, a global human organization that is dedicated to hunting and destroying Transformers of any affiliation, Cade ends up taking in Isabella Monner, a young girl who was orphaned back during the Battle of Chicago. In the process of doing so, Cade crosses paths with an ancient, dying Transformer who then gives him a mysterious talisman. It turns out said talisman has ties to not only the Transformers' secret history on Earth over the ages, as Cade learns from astronomer and historian, Sir Edmund Burton, Anthony Hopkins, the member of a society tasked with protecting those secrets, but the destinies of both Cade and one Vivienne Wembley, Laura Haddock, a professor at the University of Oxford. When Cybertron itself then mysteriously begins to approach the Earth, spurning the TRF to strike a bargain with Megatron, Frank Welker, and the Decepticons to protect our world, it falls to Cade and his Autobot friends to find the legendary technology that can save the planet, humanity and Transformers kind alike. First, while Transformers: The Last Night is the fifth addition to the live-action Transformers movie franchise overall, as well as the fifth, and supposedly final, one directed by Michael Bay, it is the first installment to be plotted out by members of the Transformers writers group that was assembled by Paramount Pictures. Back in 2015, the main goal of said writers group was to expand the Transformers movie franchise into a full-blown cinematic universe, with The Last Night serving as both an entertaining continuation of the previous films and an intriguing launching board for future Transformers sequels and spin-offs. Sorry to say, The Last Night is not all that successful at being either of those things. Transformers: The Last Night has a deeper mythos and bigger spectacle than its predecessors, yet still ends up being mostly hollow and cacophonous. The Last Night, if nothing else, is a pure Michael Bay production from a technical perspective, in the sense that it prioritizes rapid editing, explosion-fueled sequences and flashy set pieces over coherent action-driven storytelling. Working with John Wick's cinematographer Jonathan Sella, Bay does bring a proper sense of grand blockbuster scale to The Last Night with his camera angles and shot choices, as well as a dynamic sensibility to the proceedings in general. Problem is, Bay's IMAX 3D visual style hasn't evolved much since his efforts on the third Transformers movie, Dark of the Moon, and The Last Night's technical flourishes come off as more derivative than engaging. In turn, The Last Night may feature more shiny, computer-animated Transformers and non-stop spectacle than its predecessors, but Bay seems to be out of fresh ideas for what to do with this franchise, from an action filmmaking perspective. Even the unique settings of the movie's third act, and a Suicide Squad-inspired introduction to the Decepticons, only do so much to liven up the otherwise by-the-numbers Transformers battles on display. Number 8. In the latest addition to the Transformers franchise, director Michael Bay keeps the camera constantly moving and the editing lightning quick because he knows that if that camera stops and lingers for even just a moment, the audience will have a chance to ask themselves, why do I care about these people? Transformers: The Last Night is a noisy, frenetic, and action-filled movie that substitutes frenetic energy and noise for emotional depth. The characters are constantly shouting if not shouting, then they're saying it as dramatically as possible that the world is about to end. The ruins of Cybertron, the home planets of the Transformers, is coming closer to Earth to destroy it, in order to be reborn. While the world faces imminent destruction, Cade Yeager, Mark Wahlberg, is protecting and keeping hidden the last remaining Autobots from a human task force dead set on capturing or destroying all Transformers on Earth. But with the arrival of Cybertron, Cade Yeager is made to partner up with the historian, Vivian Wembley, played by Laura Haddock, by Sir Edmund Burton, played by Anthony Hopkins. Burton is a part of an ancient society who has kept the secret of the Transformers from humanity all the way back to the Dark Ages. He knows of an artifact that only Cade and Vivian can find and use to stop Cybertron from destroying the planet. Number 9. The roller coaster ride that is the Transformers franchise is truly mind-boggling. It's a series of surprising highs and aggravating lows. It's a series that can deliver exactly what you want from big popcorn entertainment in one film and then turn around and repeat their earlier mistakes in the very next movie. Take 2014's Age of Extinction, a terrific installment, despite a lot of jaded criticism, that dialed back a lot of the noise to tell a silly yet fun and action-packed story. But then came The Last Night, a box office disaster that lost over $100 million for Paramount Pictures, and it's easy to see why. Unlike its immediate predecessor, The Last Night is a confounding mess. It's a movie plagued by so many bad choices in front of the camera but mostly behind it. The outcome was clearly unforeseen as the film ends with obvious aspirations for another sequel. As it stands, Bay has stepped down from directing Transformers movies and it looks like Paramount may be abandoning this storyline and latching onto the Bumblebee arc instead. The bulk of the film's problems can be easily traced to the screenplay. Gone is Aaron Kruger, who wrote the previous two films. This time writing duties are handed to the trio of Art Markham, Matt Holloway, and Ken Nolan. Their biggest issue revolves around their desperate attempts at being funny, but rather than good humor, they gave us the same maddening banter that made 2009's Revenge of the Fallen so hard to sit through. Here they cram in the juvenile and often potty-mouthed wisecracking, which makes much of the film feel shallow, pubescent, and at times insufferable. Even if you can wade through the mind-melting bickering and brutally bad slapstick that's mostly prevalent in the first half, it doesn't get much better from there. The breakneck storytelling features one narrative shortcut after another. Even worse, the movie never slows down to breathe. It never stops to let the characters have actual meaningful moments. We're just rushed from point to point as Bay and company drown us in nonsensical mythologizing that never reaches any kind of satisfying conclusion. It's all excess and overload that quickly devolves into a grind. You know what you're getting by now, right? Did you see any of the other Transformers movies? They are all unified in sensibility of craft, story, and tone. The toy mold has not been broken for the latest installment, The Last Night. If you are instinctually repulsed by director Michael Bay's style or don't care about giant transforming robots, this film definitely won't change your mind, and I've no idea why you would expect otherwise. Still, the series is a popular punching bag for critics, who perhaps torque their venom whenever it pops up because of the underlying knowledge that these movies only keep making avalanches of money, and they have no power over that. That Transformers is treated as the Tiffany Trump to the critics' Donald among franchises is curious to me. I can't say I particularly like any of the films, but I also don't see most of them as that much worse than typical big dance studio offerings. Revenge of the Fallen was pretty wretched, though. Perhaps because they embody the purest, most id-like indulgence of blockbuster conventions, they receive a correspondingly larger backlash. But among movies that suck up billions thanks to audiences' hunger for spectacle, few accomplish spectacle the way these do. It's perfectly fair to disparage Bayham for its personality, but actually having personality is more than can be said for a lot of blockbusters that critics adulate. Marvel. He is a rare filmmaker who seems to get that bombast is a draw for the viewer, and who has an honest sense of dramatic movement, even if he's easy to make fun of since he applies those dramatics to almost every movement. I'm not even sure why I feel compelled to come at this from a defensive angle. The Last Night is mostly not on my wavelength. In one scene, a Transformer swaps out his charming vintage Citroën and disguise for a sterile modern Lamborghini, which offended me almost on a religious level. Mind you, I'm not even a car guy. I'm strongly of the opinion that a friendly robot voiced by Omar Sy cartoonishly exaggerating his French accent should be a Citroën and DS, while one of the mean robots should be a hyper-aggressive Lambo, which looks like the vehicular embodiment of a man who never tips. I also think that watching robots fight other robots is superior to watching humans fight robots. But Michael Bay does not and never has shared this opinion. More disappointingly, despite Bay's deep military fetish for jargon and hardware, this film's sense of action, geography and tactics is atrocious. Soldiers will arrive on a scene and be shooting at a target for half a minute before we're actually shown what they're fighting. There's a plot, and much of it, but absolutely no one cares about that except pop culture writers hungry for articles based around ticking off all the inconsistencies, plot holes, and crazy things that actually happen. VFX-heavy action movies have stories solely to string the big sequences together, and so the Transformers films, in keeping with doing everything extra, have the most needlessly complicated excuse chains. It's a slurry of Transformers being hunted by the government, the remnants of their home planet on a collision course with Earth, more reveals about Transformers having intervened throughout human history, and a hunt for the staff of Merlin. Oh right, Merlin the Wizard and King Arthur and all that really happened. They had Transformer friends who combined into a robot dragon. That was a bit I was quite fond of. Number 10. Mark Wahlberg returns as Cade Yeager, a single father and inventor who helped Optimus Prime and the few remaining Autobots save the planet in the previous film. In The Last Night he owns a massive junkyard which he secretly uses to hide Transformers from the still aggressive United States government. Cade encounters and takes in a young orphaned scavenger named Isabella Bonner in a paper-thin role. He also crosses paths with a dying Transformer who gives him a mysterious talisman that immediately connects to his body. Director Michael Bay's latest noisy and explosive sequel celebrating Hasbro's famed transforming robotic toy line tempts hardcore fans for a return visit in Transformers: The Last Night. Paramount Home Entertainment, rated PG-13, 155 minutes. 1.90 to 1 to 2.39 to 1 aspect ratio, $37.99, now available in the ultra-high definition format. Audiences can relive a bloated plot that featured famed inventor and mechanic Cade Yeager, Mark Wahlberg, in possession of a talisman from the Arthurian era that can stop the destruction of Earth. Mr. Yeager must band together with the sexy descendant of Merlin, Vivian Wembley, Laura Haddock, and elderly Transformers historian Sir Edmund Burton, Anthony Hopkins, and, of course, a whole bunch of dazzling, transforming Autobots. The group's goals are to obtain a mysterious staff, defeat the Decepticons, outwit the U.S. government and stop the fusion of the planet with the Transformers' homeworld of Cybertron. Despite headache-inducing subplots, Mr. Bay still manages to offer his viewers some stunning action scenes both above and underwater. A submarine battle really shines, as well as create plenty of fodder to build upon the Transformers canon covering their existence from 484 AD to today. At some point, you must know when to say when, realize when it's time to finally say goodbye. 5 films deep into the series, for Michael Bay, Transformers: The Last Night is the bombastic filmmaker's bon voyage to the franchise and he's looking to go out on top, bro. However, obviously not registering restraint, Bay also fails to understand the meaning of last call. So, for his grand, overstuffed send-off, the director goes for broke and detonates the biggest fireworks spectacle of his career with characteristic excessive force. Bay reigns supreme, but even by the coarse Helmer's overindulgent standards, The Last Night is nonsensically overwrought. The would-be blockbuster to end all blockbusters, Bay takes the kitchen sink, throws it like a Hail Mary at the sun and basks in the supernova shockwave that concusses the viewer. In scale and scope, The Last Night is an impressive behemoth. Unfortunately for Bay, it's also an unbearable disaster of epic proportions. An incoherent mess with the plot so convoluted its impaired story points to signs of narrative brain damage and a writer's room depleted of oxygen and snacks. The story of The Last Night, such as there is one, is tortuous and painfully overloaded. There's the secret history of the Transformers backstory that reveals robots fought together with King Arthur's knights, the samurai in ancient Japan, and alongside the Allies, and we are to name a few key historical turning points and epics. Then there's the story of Cade Yeager, Mark Wahlberg, passed on from Transformers: Age of Extinction, now a fugitive living on the fringes with the Autobots wanted by the TRF, Transformers Reaction Force, and the teenaged Hispanic orphaned rebel, Isabella Bonner, who hopes to join his band of renegades. 2 more to go. The story of Optimus Prime seeking to meet his maker on Cybertron, which leaves him out of the picture for most of the movie, and then in Jolly England, the tale of erudite, eye candy Professor Vivian Wembley, Laura Haddock, and astronomer Sir Edmund Burton, Anthony Hopkins, phoning it in, but having fun doing so, the latter of whom knows a thing or two about Transformers and their myths on Earth. Somewhere within that bloated tale lies the real plot concerning Merlin the Wizard, an ancient staff, the heir apparent who can wield it, and a mysterious talisman for the Chosen One. All of this is mashed preposterously together to try and say something about legends, sacrifice and heroism. But it's like shouting into a hurricane, a whirlwind of a story told turgidly with flashpots of ridiculous hyperbole going off everywhere. It's an overwhelming, grotesque, often laughable last hurrah, sprawling, cacophonous, and narratively incomprehensible spectacle. Transformers: The Last Night is a film that defies simple summarization, not because of its complexity, but due to its sheer, unyielding messiness. As the 5th installment in Michael Bay's blockbuster franchise, it doubles down on the director's signature style of relentless, explosive action and chaotic visuals, while simultaneously presenting a plot so convoluted and nonsensical it borders on self-parody. For a film with a massive budget and a runtime of over 2.5 hours, it offers little in the way of a coherent, engaging cinematic experience. The film's premise, or what can be gathered of it, centers on a new conflict for the Autobots and their human allies. Set after the events of Age of Extinction, the world has turned against all Transformers, with a new government-backed force, the Transformers Reaction Force, TRF, hunting them down. Optimus Prime, having departed Earth in search of his creators, is absent for a significant portion of the film. This leaves the returning Cade Yeager, Mark Wahlberg, to serve as a reluctant protector for the remaining Autobots, now hiding out in a junkyard. The central MacGuffin this time around is a staff belonging to Merlin, the legendary wizard of Arthurian lore. The film inexplicably retcons this history, revealing that Merlin was not a magician but a man who was given the staff by a Transformer to aid King Arthur in a battle. This staff, now a key to saving or destroying the universe, is the object of a mad dash between the Autobots, a newly brainwashed Optimus Prime, now under the control of the creator Quintessa, and a reassembled Megatron. To add to the frantic mix of characters and plot threads, the film introduces Sir Edmund Burton, Anthony Hopkins, a kooky English lord who acts as a historian of Transformer history on Earth. He is the last in a line of secret protectors of the Autobots and is the one who explains the King Arthur mythology. He is joined by Vivian Wembley, Laura Haddock, an Oxford professor and the last living descendant of Merlin. Together, this unlikely trio must race against time to find the staff before Quintessa uses it to drain the life from Earth, which is actually the dormant Transformer god Unicrona, to rebuild Cybertron. The narrative is a jumbled, disjointed mess. The film leaps from one chaotic action sequence to the next, stringing together a series of events without any clear sense of cause and effect. Characters pop in and out with little to no explanation, and subplots are introduced and then summarily abandoned. For instance, the film begins by setting up Cade as a hunted fugitive, only to have him team up with the TRF he was running from earlier. The main conflict, the struggle for Merlin's staff, is repeatedly sidelined by a parade of noisy set pieces that are visually overwhelming but lack any emotional weight or narrative purpose. The teased showdown between Optimus Prime and Bumblebee, a key marketing point, is over in a flash, serving as a brief, perfunctory moment before Optimus snaps back to his senses. The film's chaotic storytelling is further exacerbated by its reliance on tired comedic tropes and a staggering amount of exposition. The dialogue is laughably awful, with characters constantly announcing their obvious feelings or shouting generic lines of action. Anthony Hopkins, an acclaimed actor, is tasked with delivering some of the most bizarre and rambling exposition of his career, a testament to the script's lack of faith in its own storytelling. His robot butler, Cagman, is a sociopathic oddity that provides a few moments of intentional and unintentional comedy, but ultimately feels like a character from a different movie entirely. From a technical standpoint, The Last Night is a classic Michael Bay film, for better or worse. It's a visual spectacle, filmed largely with IMAX 3D cameras, and the sheer scale of the action is often breathtaking. Bay's penchant for slow motion, explosions, and sweeping camera movements is on full display. However, the editing is frantic and often incoherent, particularly during the Transformer-on-Transformer fights. The rapid-fire cuts make it difficult to distinguish one robot from another, let alone understand the geography of the fight. It's a feast for the eyes but a jumble for the mind. Despite its critical drubbing and audience fatigue, Transformers: The Last Night was a commercial success, though a notably diminished one compared to its predecessors. It grossed over $600 million worldwide, but was considered a financial disappointment for Paramount, losing the studio an estimated $100 million when marketing and distribution costs were factored in. Its performance marked a clear sign that the formula was wearing thin, leading the studio to pivot to a different approach with the more critically acclaimed Bumblebee prequel. In the end, Transformers: The Last Night is a loud, messy, and ultimately hollow exercise in cinematic excess. It's a film that mistakes noise for substance, and a nonsensical plot for grand mythology. While some might find entertainment in the sheer scale of its destruction, it fails to deliver a compelling story or memorable characters, cementing its place as one of the most creatively bankrupt entries in a franchise already known for its creative shortcomings. It's an explosion in a metal factory, a parade of sound and fury signifying almost nothing at all. Transformers 5: The Last Night was the last movie by Michael Bay before he left the Transformers series, and Transformers 5: The Last Night was a good movie to the Transformers series. The plot was intense to where they have Optimus Prime turn evil by his creator, and the whole fight between Optimus and Bumblebee was insane. It was intense. It was WTF moment. Seeing Optimus beat the crap out of Bumblebee really scared fans, and going to have Optimus Prime being killed off by a bunch of knights was just going to literally furious everyone. But the story focuses on King Arthur and Marlin's staff when you find out that what everyone was after. People always say Transformers is bad. But nope, who knows how to enjoy movies knows how great the Transformers movies actually are. His movie is fire. I really love this. It's one of the week away movies, and the only bad thing about this movie is that it underperformed at the box office. Which has nothing to do really with the original movie. Movie is peak, and everybody who knows how to enjoy movies will 100% agree. The only good thing about this movie is the music. The visuals being good has become a given. It's gotten old, but the music never disappoints, especially at the end credits. But that's still not enough to save this movie. Stupid, convoluted, abhorrent writing and utterly unwatchable. Transformers 5 proves yet again that this franchise should have ended with a third movie. Absolutely disgraceful. Transformers: The Last Night isn't just a bad movie, it's a staggering failure on almost every conceivable level. Michael Bay pushes the franchise's bombastic tendencies to new extremes, but here, excess becomes unbearable incoherence. The film is a bloated, convoluted attempt to mix everything from Arthurian lore to conspiracies, to spacefaring robots, creating a narrative that's as nonsensical as it is exhausting. You'll find characters discussing Merlin's staff, a transformer killing, and secret societies, all without any depth, sense, or direction. The result is a film that feels like 5 half-baked movies crammed into one, with no time for any of its elements to breathe. The writing is atrocious, characterized by non-stop exposition that tries to stitch together wildly unrelated plot points. Anthony Hopkins, delivering some of the most absurd lines of his career, oscillates between dead serious historian and a bizarrely comedic mad scientist, all while delivering endless lore that even the actors seem confused by. Worse, the dialogue fluctuates between forced banter and flat-out nonsensical explanations of the plot, making it impossible to invest in the story. There's a moment where we're supposed to believe that Mozart and FDR knew about the Transformers, which is as ridiculous as it sounds. The movie opens at a breakneck pace with Cade Yeager, Mark Wahlberg, reintroduced by shooting a robot in slow motion. From that moment, it never lets up, but not in a good way. Bay's tendency to overload the action scenes reaches new lows here. There's no tension or build-up, just a relentless barrage of explosions, quick cuts, and incoherent choreography. The action scenes, once a hallmark of the franchise, are not only poorly shot but also lack any memorable sequences. At one point, the characters are inexplicably on a submarine, and the audience is left as clueless as the actors. What makes The Last Night especially unbearable is its complete disregard for character or emotional stakes. Optimus Prime, who was once the moral center of the series, now acts completely out of character, spouting lines that sound more like a villainous warlord than the heroic leader fans know. Even Bumblebee, one of the few consistent bright spots, is dragged down by the weight of the film's incompetence. The new characters, such as Vivian, Laura Haddock, are poorly developed, serving no purpose other than to push the absurd plot forward. And Cade Yeager's journey, marked by bizarre talisman powers, feels like an afterthought rather than a compelling hero's arc. Perhaps the most damning aspect of The Last Night is its lack of effort. Even in bad films, you can often see glimpses of artistic ambition or an attempt to entertain. Here, it's painfully obvious that no one involved cared. The editing is sloppy, the effects feel uninspired, and the entire production reeks of a cash grab. What should be the climactic battle of the series is nothing more than a jumble of recycled ideas, lazy writing, and unengaging action. It's as if the film was made solely to fulfill a contractual obligation, with no concern for quality or coherence. Fans of the franchise deserve better, but instead, they're given this cinematic abomination, a film so devoid of creativity or passion that it may well be the death of the franchise. Oh, and let's not forget, the inclusion of a wizard just adds another level of absurdity to this already ridiculous concoction. I stopped going to see Transformers at the theaters after the third movie. I refused to see this monolithic, nonsensical movie in the theaters when it was released. Last night I caught the whole movie on YouTube. If one accepts the silly, out of left field, mythic fantasy ill-woven into the story and the ridiculousness of the entire premise, then the movie is fairly entertaining. Once one accepts the absurdity of the whole plotline, then it's easier to watch the movie. Still not a good movie, but much better than Rise of the Beasts, which was an utter mess. A film primarily about good robots fighting naughty robots has no business being 2 hours and 28 minutes long. Worse, Transformers: The Last Night is so convoluted and drawn out that it feels like double that amount of time has passed. Just like the rest of this series, Michael Bay's fifth Transformers film sees the Autobots, good, fight the Decepticons, naughty, for little more reason than that's simply what they do. And, just like the rest, it tries to crowbar Transformers lore into human history and legends, almost to the point where it seems like Earth belongs more to these big old cars with faces than to us. This time around it's King Arthur and the Crusades, where we see that Merlin, played by a particularly silly Stanley Tucci, was given a magic staff by a Transformer, and that staff is now the key to saving the Transformers' home planet of Cybertron. If that sounds familiar, it's because that same idea is literally what happens in almost every single Transformers movie to date. In the first film it was a dusty pair of glasses that held the key to saving Cybertron, and now it's a big stick. It was a flimsy excuse for a plot then, and it's tired and flimsy now. Mark Wahlberg is back as Cade Yeager and spends the entire film looking totally confused by every situation he's presented with. He's helped by Laura Haddock's Oxford University professor Vivian Wembley, who adds a more badass air of smarts to the Transformers movie's leading lady mold. One of the sillier highlights is Anthony Hopkins babbling on about robots as historian and astronomer Sir Edmund Burton. Hearing an Oscar-winning actor and actual Britishnite talking in-depth Autobot lore was genuinely quite funny, whether intentional or not. This is helped by his robot butler sidekick, Cagman, brought to life by Jim Carter doing an exact impression of his Downton Abbey human butler character. I'd pay to see those two in their own film, solving space mysteries up and down the British coast. This, sadly, is not that movie, and their potential goes to waste. Since their introduction in 1984, the Transformers have been a vital part of many childhood memories for those who collected the toys and cherished the original cartoon series, religiously watching it every Saturday morning. Then, in 2007, the 80s phenomenon became a live-action film when Transformers hit the big screen, reintroducing the series to a new generation and allowing children of the 80s a chance to turn back the clock. Since then, the successful modern film franchise has produced 4 more films, with 2017's Transformers: The Last Night being the latest. Released back on June 21 via Paramount Pictures, Transformers: The Last Night sees Michael Bay back for the 5th time in the director's chair, but does it live up to expectations? Before going any further, it must be said that producing a 5th movie of the franchise is quite impressive. It proves that this series has a lot to offer to audiences, and yes, has been a money-making machine. That said, Transformers: The Last Night has grossed a mass amount as of August. However, against having the highest budget of any of the films in the series, is on pace to be the lowest grossing of them all. Numbers aside, Transformers: The Last Night sees Mark Wahlberg, Boogie Nights 1997, Daddy's Home 2015, reprises his role as Cade Yeager, Josh Duhamel, The Picture of Dorian Gray 2005, Chips 2017, as William Lennox, and John Turturro, Raging Bull 1980, The Good Shepherd 2006, As Seymour Simmons, the film starts off in 484 AD where Merlin forms an alliance with the Knights of Lycan, a group of 12 Transformers who have hidden on Earth. The knight gives Merlin a staff which turns into a dragon and destroys a group of civilians called the Saxons. It then flashes forward to present day. This opening sequence will have significant meaning later on. The government has declared the Transformers as outlawed and the Transformer Reaction Force, TRF, has been formed to destroy them. Optimus Prime is still absent where in the previous film, Transformers, Age of Extinction, left to find its creators' new robots arrive specifically in Chicago where a group of children discover them. The TRF locates the kids and confronts them initially for the whereabouts of the robots before they are saved by Isabella Yeager, a survivor of the Battle of Chicago, and her Transformer sidekicks Squeaks and Canopy, but Canopy is killed in the process while on their escape route. They are met by Cade Yeager and Bumblebee to help them escape. However, the Transformer is unable to be saved as he was deeply wounded. He ends up giving Cade a metallic talisman, an act observed by Decepticon Scout Barricade, who reports to his leader, Megatron. Michael Bay has a lot of chutzpah, to say the least. That is evident throughout his career and certainly on display with the Blu-ray and DVD release of his latest, Transformers, The Last Knight. Having Transformers be an integral part of King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table. Told you. This fifth Transformers movie finds star Mark Wahlberg returning for his second tour with the franchise. His last outing, Transformers, Age of Extinction, was made watchable by the charismatic lead and its globe-trotting ways, especially the elements that took place in China. We're not saying it was necessarily a good film, but it was certainly something that was painful to witness for those who aren't stalwart fans of the series. Judging by the box office success of these last two films in particular, there are millions that adore it. Even a memorable turn by Wahlberg cannot save a plot that is all over the place at its best and full of holes and nonsensical at the worst. This is by far the worst of the quintet of flicks based on the Hasbro toys to hit the screen. As we have a spin-off with Bumblebee coming next year and a planned 6th Transformers movie coming the year after that, don't look for The Last Knight to be the final installment in this series. But maybe it should be broken bar as we eloquently explored more intensely in our Theatrical Transformers, The Last Knight review. Basically this time out, we get to go deep into the past of the aliens who can change from modes of transportation to militaristic robots. The key to our future, and theirs, is hanging in the balance this time out, isn't it always? And with the help of an English lord, Sir Anthony Hopkins, picking up quite a paycheck for the Oscar winner, Wahlberg's Cade Yeager must solve a mystery centuries in the making to save RA and the Transformers A world. Joining Wahlberg in this fifth Transformers film is a returning series favorite, Josh Duhamel back as Colonel William Lennox, Isabella Moner, Laura Haddock, Santiago Cabrera and Gerard Carmichael also star in the film that fans of the series are surely going to want to add to their collection.